Welcome to Behind the Binge, the podcast where we bring forth much-needed conversations about binge eating recovery and ditching diet culture. I'm your host, Marissa Kai-Millick, a registered dietitian, nutritionist, and binge eating coach. This is our space to dive into practical tips to heal from binge eating, challenge your diet culture beliefs, discuss the nuances of intuitive eating, and empower you to recover. Let's start exploring what's behind the binge. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. Hope you are doing well. So, for this week's episode, I was thinking about what I wanted to make the topic and honestly didn't have too many ideas. But personally, it's that time of the month for me, and my eating habits change a little bit during that time of the month. And so I've been talking about that a bit on my story because I think it's something that's not totally normalized, right? For when we're on our period, we have these cravings, we may be eating more than usual, we may feel like our appetite is off. And those are normally things people seek to fix, right? How can I minimize my cravings, or they feel like these extreme cravings they may have on their period are so abnormal that it's an issue? And while it could be in some specific circumstances, for the mass majority of us, it's just period cravings, and that's okay. And it's nothing to be ashamed of or try to avoid. So, I wanted to use today's episode to chat about periods. So, if anyone out there is listening who gets a period, this one's for you, okay? A lot of hormones go into regulating our menstrual system, and that it's a lot, right? We can feel those huge shifts in our hormones around that time of the month, around when we're getting our period. And it impacts us in many different ways. It impacts our emotions, it impacts our stress, but it also impacts our appetite. While we may have an increase in our resting metabolic rate when we're on our period, meaning we may need more food when we are having or getting a menstrual cycle, it when I say menstrual cycle, isn't the cycle the full like 28 days or 30 days or whatever? I'm just talking about when we're getting our period. So right before we get the period or during the period, there is research to show that we may have an increased resting metabolic rate. It just very much varies person to person. But on the other side of that, we may have less emotion regulation, or we may be more stressed, and very common for us to want to reach for food to cope with that. And honestly, there's no real big problem with that, right? Once a month, we're feeling a bit more emotional, a bit more hormonal, and we just want to eat some dang cookie butter. Absolutely no problem with that. And I think where the problem comes in is when we deny ourselves of these cravings, which can easily lead us to spiral into overeating or a binge when we finally, quote unquote, give in because we wanted it so badly. It's now heightened. It's made us want it more, and we're more likely to eat more of it to find satisfaction in that because we denied ourselves of it when we initially wanted it. So, to talk about this, I want to talk about today for myself. So it was lunchtime, and my boyfriend just brought me in some lunch, and it was a tofurkey sandwich because I used to be vegetarian. And I just love tofurkey. So I continue to eat it. So he made me a tofurkey sandwich with some chips, and I was eating it. And I ate like 3/4 of one half. I'm looking at it right now. I ate like 3/4 of one half and half of another half. So not even probably a full half of a sandwich, maybe a little like a bite or two more, and like two of the chips. I didn't even eat the chips. They didn't seem satisfying to me today. And I wasn't full, but I was just like, I don't want another bite of a sandwich. I was very thankful that he made me a sandwich, though. Thanks, Christian, if you're listening to this. But it's like, all I really want is to go into my cabinet and get out my cookie butter that I bought yesterday and have a few spoonfuls of that and move on with my day. So I was like, okay, cool. Rad, gonna do that. Went to the cabinet, got my cookie butter, grabbed a spoon, went back to my desk, and just kind of snacked on it for a little bit, like with just some like little scoops, licking the spoon, enjoying it while still being mindful of not eating so much that it made me not feel great, that it gave me a stomach ache, but just enough to kind of satisfy that sweet tooth I had in that moment. Was it nutritious? No. Was it because I was hungry? Not really. It was just what I felt like having. And there's no problem with listening to those cravings. If we only ever ate when we were hungry and stopped when we were full, life would be so boring, right? We would probably never eat ice cream because most of the time when I eat ice cream, it's just because I want it, not because I'm hungry. And that's how it was with the cookie butter just then. I'm on my period and I personally feel hungrier when I'm on my period, but I also crave things that are a little more dense, that have a little more fat in them when I'm on my period, and that could be for a multitude of reasons. One could be that my resting metabolic rate is higher, so I'm burning more calories just by existing in my body trying to shed, through my period. That that could be part of it. And so my body craves these higher calorie foods like peanut butter or cookie butter or whatever because it's genuinely seeking calories. Could be emotional, hormones making me a bit more stressed. My anxiety levels are definitely higher today. Could be because I forgot to take my anxiety meds all weekend, mixed with the fact that I'm on my period, but feeling a lot more anxious today and stressed out. So that could be related to why I'm trying to reach for more like comfort foods. It could also be because hormone regulation is regulated highly by fat. So again, my body craving more fat to help with the hormone regulation could be part of it. There's so many different factors, and we could talk about like the scientific side or just the straight up emotional side of when we feel like crap, we're likely going to crave comfort foods that are generally less nutritious. And there's nothing wrong with that, you guys. I mean, if we listen to our cravings and move on, we can continue to listen to our body through that and not spiral into always, eating these foods or always overeating or binge eating. But when we deny ourselves of that permission, that's likely when we may spiral into eating the whole jar of cookie butter or disconnecting from our body and eating it till we feel sick because we don't have that connection with our body to where we can listen to it. So, yeah, I just wanted to talk about this because not only does it come up in my coaching programs and one-to-one clients, but it's also something I wondered for years. Like, why, when I'm on my period, do I crave all sorts of things and feel hungrier and don't feel satisfied? Well, it could be all sorts of things, but kind of the main takeaway here is listen, listen to that. There's no problem with once a month or so, enjoying fun foods and just kind of listening to your cravings and not finishing your lunch because you just want some cookie butter instead. One day, 1 week, 1 month is not going to make or break your health. It's not that black and white. Health is really not that black and white. And our bodies are very smart. I'm not going to become malnourished from a week of eating rice and beans on the river trail when I go camping either. So, reminding yourself that it's okay to listen to your cravings. It's not always a bad thing, especially when you're on your period. I mean, treat yourself. Being on your period sucks, I'm honestly grateful for my period because for years I didn't have it. Not years. I don't even think it was 1 year because I regulated it with a pill for a while. But then I got off the pill and I think I missed it for like 8 months or so before it was regular again because that was like during my recovery. Um, anyway, from that moment on, I was grateful to get a period. And honestly, I mean, what woman or person who could get pregnant isn't a little excited if they're not ready to have a kid when they get their period? And they were like, maybe curious if that could have, happened the past month. We're always just a little bit like, okay, whew, that was nice. So I don't hate my period, but it's a lot. It's a lot. I feel emotional right now. I have anxiety. I'm stressed, and not only stressed because of my period, but it's hard to run a business. And when things change in your business, like opening a new membership program, it's stressful because you just want people to join and like it. And so it's a lot of pressure. So that's kind of what's been going on this week for me. You guys have turned into my therapist on this podcast today. Thank you for listening. Anyway, I just kind of rambled. I didn't really have a plan for this podcast. I just wanted to chat about the period stuff and how listening to our body when we're on our period includes listening to our cravings and listening to just whatever it is we feel like we need in that moment. And if that choice turns out to not honor you in the way you thought it would, that's okay. Like if I ate the cookie butter till I got a stomach ache, I probably would have been like, dang, I wish I would have just been a little more in touch with my body while I was doing that so I didn't overeat it, but that's okay. This moment will pass. I'll get over it. That's what I've been saying all day to myself too with this anxiety. Like I just feel so much anxiety. I'm like, you know what? I'll take some breaks throughout the day. I'll do what I can to manage my anxiety, but I know this feeling's temporary and I'll probably feel better tomorrow. I just don't feel great right now. So like what could I do tomorrow differently to hopefully set my day up to where I'm a little less stressed? I could probably move my body in the morning. I didn't move my body today. I actually haven't moved my body in a week. Maybe that's related. And then I could also probably take my medication that I forgot to take the past 2 days, and that would probably help. So there's all sorts of things that you can do to kind of not judge yourself in these moments and move on. So I hope that gives you some reflection, some perspective. This was a very candid, casual podcast episode. So I hope you enjoyed it. I'm really looking forward to some future podcast episodes that I planned with other people that I plan to have on. And we already have some of those set up and some topics just waiting to get them recorded. And if you've been enjoying this podcast so far, be sure to leave a review. It really helps me out. I've been like sitting at 14 reviews for like a few weeks. And it's weird because I thought a few people told me they put reviews in. Maybe it takes a while to process. I don't know. But if you listen to on Apple, if you listen to this on Apple, then I'd appreciate a review if you're enjoying it. But otherwise, feel free to reach out with podcast ideas to my Instagram at behind.the.binge. I would love to hear from you and answer some listener questions and make sure I'm giving you what you need through this platform, because that's kind of the reason I created this, because I was like, I need another place to help you navigate the nuances of food freedom. So that's what I'm here for. Hope you enjoyed this quick little tidbit episode. Literally been recording for like 12 minutes. That's my shortest podcast episode yet. But sometimes we just need a little bite-sized motivation, inspiration, food for thought to carry us on our journey. So hope you all have a great week. Happy Monday. And I will chat with you in the next episode. Bye, everyone.